Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Diaries of Badass Bosses. I'm Penny Joyner-Platt and I'm on my own. Well, not on my own, technically. I've always got the lovely Connor. Hi, Connor.
Hello there.
So any of you that are a loyal listener will know that I normally do host the shows with my delightful co-host Tiggs, but she's taken a bit of a sabbatical, we're going to call it, and she will be coming back to us soon as a guest host. But for the moment, you're stuck with me. But those of you that are actually tuning in for the very first time, you don't know any different. So welcome. Today, I'm actually going to talk about podcasting. I actually, Connor, did a talk this week at the Three Counties Expo. And I talked about like the power of podcasting and why actually a lot of businesses and brands need to get on board with it, why it's important to them, and maybe why they've not even thought about it, but it's a real opportunity. And one of the questions that came up was like, how do you pitch? I mean, you've got your own podcast. You know what it's like. There are some really bad, just really bad pitches out there.
There really are. It's the copy and paste ones that get me, or completely sort of get the genre wrong of what I actually talk about.
Yeah,
that's always quite interesting.
It's like you can tell as well that it's a copy and paste exercise. There's a lot of agents or agencies out there that seem to think it's okay to kind of blast out to a load of podcasts with a guest suggestion and have not done their research.
Absolutely. Yeah, the ones I get the most in email is where they've copied and pasted the episode title and it's still bold from where they've copied and pasted it from. That's always quite interesting.
I just can't get my breath. I mean, as a PR, like, you know, for me, I get it because it's the real kind of bane of any journalist's life is knowing that the PR's not done the research. They clearly, you know, but most people have read a magazine or a newspaper, you know, to be able to pitch to that journalist. So why don't you just listen to a podcast? I mean, it's 20 minutes of your life, but do your research. Like, yeah, well, I thought it would be an entertaining episode to basically go through and give our advice on what we think would be really helpful for those of you who would really like to be a guest, you know, whether you're doing it for yourself, so you want to just pitch yourself, or if, you know, you're an agent and you have multiple clients, you know, hopefully you will find some insight here and you can find out what us podcasters really hate with your pitches. So the first thing that I want to talk about is kind of setting the stage, really. So it's kind of that first impression. And particularly if, you know, you're introducing yourself on email, you know, you're not actually, you know, you're not sharing an image or you're meeting that person. You're literally sending an email. Make sure, first of all, you personalize it. But talk about yourself and introduce yourself and set the scene of, you know, why is it I would be interested in having you on the podcast? Like, what is it about you? You know, you got to kind of be, I'm going to say, a little bit of a narcissist to kind of actually really big yourself up. But it's like writing your CV. You've got to sell yourself. So I guess that first impression really does matter. And like Connor was just saying as well, it's like, you know, make sure that you're not copy and pasting. Like, you know, it doesn't take too long to personalize your emails. So spend the time. It's really worth it because, you know, we do pick up on that. Like it's important. The second thing, I know your audience. Like, you know, the great thing about podcasts is we're all somewhat, you know, we're tailored. We've got a particular niche or we cover a particular topic. So, I mean, for us, like with Diaries of Badass Bosses, one thing I do always get, I think a lot of people think that we're female only.
Which is, yeah, misconception, not true.
I think maybe it's the pink.
It could be the pink, yeah.
I think the pink is putting the men off.
It takes a brave man to wear pink.
Hey, I tell you what, my hubby looks good in pink.
I don't. I it's not my colour.
I mean, you're wearing all black
I'm
again
wearing all black today. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Head to
I
toe
can't.
in it.
I'm wearing black and white, so I mean, I can't speak today. But I mean, genuinely, for us, the main thing for us is we want to hear from business owners, entrepreneurs, whether they're at the start of their career, at the end of it. We want to hear all the different journeys. But every podcast does have a particular topic. Like Connor's, yours is for creatives.
Exactly. Yeah, I try to help photographers, videographers, editors, and creatives because, in this day and age, what you're taught in university and college and like stuff like that isn't really that relevant if you want to be, say, like a content creator or a photographer or something. It's very cookie cutter, whereas times have changed. So I try to teach that.
I love that as well, because I think for your industry, it's constantly evolving. There's new technology, there's everything else. So being able to tap into your podcast and get that up to date immediate, I mean, because you are a geek as well, which is really handy.
Full nerd.
But I love that. But that's the thing. You could literally listen to one of your podcasts, 20 minutes, and just get an up to date, download of everything that you need to know for that industry. But if you're literally looking to blast out to a load of podcasts without really understanding the type of guest they're looking for, it's going to be really obvious. And if anything, you kind of blacklist yourself as well, because we do remember, whether you're an agent or you're a business yourself and you've kind of approached us and it's been poor form, it's going to take a lot to come back from that, is what I'm saying. We remember that you didn't make the effort the first time round. So make the effort that first time round and make that impression. Do your research, understand who you're pitching to, maybe even like the personalities.
Yep, definitely. Understand their audience as well.
Yeah.
Understand the audience that you want to get in front of or, be a part of, like the community in a way.
Yeah, definitely. Because I mean, for me, I love the fact that it's somewhat broad because it can be any industry. But again, then tailor it as well. Also, you know what I get as well? I get a lot of PRs pitched to me. And I don't mind that, because actually I think, we should definitely do a bit of a PR powwow for one of the episodes. But I think what was interesting was when I put out there, we're looking for guests. And the first thing is PRs are pitching themselves before their own clients.
Oh.
I'm like, if I was your client, I would be well peeved. Like, you're putting yourself ahead of me, basically, and I'm paying your bills. So, yeah. So I think, and sometimes they don't even realise that I'm a PR. I think that's always an interesting one.
Maybe they think you're just sort of trying to chat to PRs. I don't know.
Yeah. I just like winding them up if they don't know.
Read the bio.
Well, they clearly haven't listened to episode 1, that's for sure.
Very true.
But one size doesn't fit all. I think that's the main thing. So, how long it takes to write an email and tailor it and, maybe mention an episode or something, is really important. But I think the other thing, so the next bit I want to get onto is actually crafting the narrative. So this is about, what are you going to talk about? Because you've got to remember, this is, it's audio, usually visual as well. But you've got to be able to come up with topics. So just sending me here's their name, this is what they've done, this is their short bio, basically their LinkedIn profile. Copy and pasted. But I want to find out, what are we going to talk about? As much as, I'd love to know every industry inside and out, I'm actually not the expert on every industry. So for me, what would be really great is if there's something specific to your business, your industry, like what is going on that you really feel is really important, that also my audience wants to hear, because mine is about educating and understanding how to run a business, how to set it up, that type of thing. So what is it that would be really important that people would like to know about how to run a business? So give people that topic, when you're pitching to them. Don't just give your bio, please. It's just, it's storytelling at the end of the day. So tell us what your story is, tell us about your journey, and again, look at the niche, and think about who you're talking to. The other thing is confidence and being authentic. We talk about authenticity a lot. And I think social media has probably really kind of started that
Definitely.
like conversation and actually what everyone gets really frustrated with. But podcasts are exactly the same. If you can't be your authentic self, and you're putting on a facade, it's also going to really show, because the best podcasts you listen to are the ones that are passionate, the ones that, those are our favorite guests as well. We've had a mix of guests, haven't we?
We really have. There's been some characters.
There's been some fabulous characters, and there's always those ones. I know it when we finish doing a podcast and it has been epic, and I'm just like, wow, like, he or she just really blew me away. Like, I learned so much off the back of that. So, being true to yourself, to me, it makes the podcast more interesting. We don't mind the odd swear word,
True.
if that's your natural way. And I mean, I'm only just going to say it, but slippery tentacles is probably not the one.
Oh, goodness me. Still have nightmares.
That really stunned us. But yeah, I mean, I think if you kind of put on a character or a persona that's not you, I think it comes across, it's not genuine.
People can tell. There's a influencer at the moment who's the last 3 months has had a bit of controversy. He's just been basically a public menace. Will just go up to people, antagonise them, and then hide behind his bodyguard.
What?
Not good at all. He's been getting a lot of backlash, but then posted a video just sort of apologising, wanting to be like a better person. He came across very humble, so you can sort of tell that the guy's playing somewhat of a character, and people can tell that now.
Well, I mean, I do love my reality TV. There's no lie about it. I know it's your bane of your life, Connor. Mm-hmm. It's my dirty secret. But, I'm currently watching Vanderpump Rules, which, for any of you that don't know, is an American show. It's Lisa Vanderpump. She runs multiple restaurants around the world, but it's focused specifically on LA. And currently, the Sandoval case is happening, and he is literally the most hated man on the planet because he had an affair with one of their best friends behind the girls' back for like 7 months or something. But he is like the fakeness of him is unbelievable. I can't even, and it's so obvious. And this is what I mean about, like, you can just tell he doesn't mean it. It's crocodile tears. It's like, woe is me. And there's just not a place for it. And he's hated more because of it, basically. So same like this influencer guy. It's exactly that same setup. People aren't stupid. So with any podcast, like, you've got to come on and be willing to bear all a little bit as well, I think, because I think it's important to learn about the bad and the good. Business is not easy. Like, being on a podcast as well, even if you're not talking about your business, it could actually be maybe more of a personal story. You could be coming on to talk about something that's really relevant that's happened in your life. But you've got to be willing, if you're putting yourself out there, you've actually got to be willing to actually go deep.
It's like that with Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan, obviously biggest podcaster in the world. He does 3.5 hour long episodes.
They are epic, yeah.
But they're really focused on like the conversation, and then he can tell, because I don't know how many episodes he's done, like 2,000 episodes. He can tell when someone's coming on just to promote a product, a book, a drink, or a movie that they've got on, because they try and get it in within the first 5 minutes. Whereas, he can tell when right towards the end of the 3 hour mark, Joe Rogan asks, "Oh, do you want to promote anything? Do you want to tell us about anything?" When they've gone the whole 3 hours without even trying to publicly promote something, that you can tell they're being authentic and they're there for the conversation.
Yeah, it's interesting actually you say that, because again, radio, there's always been that challenge trying to get kind of broadcast coverage for clients, because ultimately radio wants to be audio entertainment. It wants to be good listening. But the BBC and commercial radio stations have really struggled to strike a balance between having a guest on a show to talk about something without having that like brand wedged in there. There's actually some really strict guidelines when we pitch to BBC, for example, of like brand mention. And it's actually the difference between getting that talk time and not with the BBC. So the way that we always used to do it, this little trick for everyone, was just it's the website. Like literally that's the way to get your brand in, because other than that, they'll make sure producers are really talented and presenters, they know how to get around not like really over advertising. So that was always a trick that we used to say to our clients, just mention your website because then your brand gets in there. But it was important for a producer to make sure that it was interesting, because as a listener, I mean, we don't like adverts at the best of times, you know. So it's a tricky one to go 7 minutes, you know, of full on pushing your brand out there. So yeah, there's a fine balance, and podcasting is just the same. Yes, you get more opportunity to talk. So hopefully if it's integral to the story and feels natural. Like I talk about PR all the time. I just naturally wedge it in there.
Authentically you.
But no, it is really important when you're pitching that you do think about being that true self, you know, when you're on the interview. And I think if you're working with, whether they're well-seasoned presenters, podcast hosts that really know the value of what their listeners want to hear, you know, they're going to get the best out of you. They're going to ask those questions. They're going to dig deep, you know. So many times now, I remember when we first started our podcast and me and Tiggs were like properly strict on like, these are our questions. We've got to make sure we get through them all. And listening back to them now, I'm like, oh God, it was way too rigid, way too like strict. And actually, sometimes when a guest would answer a question, we should have then explored it more and dug deeper. So we've learned as well going through this about making the podcast as interesting as possible and making sure we're kind of getting the best out of our guests, basically. But if you've never done them before, don't be afraid of them, I think is also my advice, because, you know, podcast does feel like you're having a chat.
It is. It's just a conversation. Just think of it as that.
Yeah.
Just a conversation. And if you're looking to start a podcast, the best piece of advice I'd give is invite a friend round, put your phone on the table, hit record, and then just listen back and see how you are as a speaker, see how you are as a listener. I think that's a good little tip.
I love that. That's great. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I talk on the phone all the time, so it's natural. But I love that. That's a really good tip. Yeah, definitely. And as I say, just kind of be confident. So yeah, maybe do a few practice runs, find that friend that's going to help you, because that's quite handy. So the other thing is, the next bit that I wanted to talk about was handling like Q&As like a boss. Okay, so no pitch is complete without a Q&A session. So how do you handle those unexpected curveballs? And I used to do a bit of this like with my media training. So when I was at the Press Association, we did a lot of media training with all different types of organizations, and I used to find it fascinating. We had these amazing journalist trainers that came in, and they would, as part of the training, throw in the most random curveball you've ever thought of. So I remember once training a client, and he worked in insurance. You know, I mean, my husband will love this because he works in insurance as well. It's always like blah, 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 insurance. But he just thought we were doing this lovely campaign. It was for charity. They were basically looking for the best kind of giving business or organization in Manchester, and basically he just wanted a bit of media training so that when we went out to pitch this campaign to broadcasters and press, that he'd feel confident in front of the camera. So when we were doing this media training, the journalist turns around and throws in this curveball question about flooding. Because at that time there'd been some really serious flooding, and obviously from an insurance point of view it's really topical and it does come up a lot, and it really threw him. He was like, so great. In the training we actually went through it, we rehearsed what type of answers and stuff you'd give on that question. Well, the crazy thing is we then secured ITV Meridian for this charity campaign. We were so chuffed. And he stood there doing this interview in front of the camera, and they're recording away, and I'm stood behind it, like cheering him on, and doing really well. He's going through all the charity, discussing about the campaign when it's launching, and then the journalist throws in about the floods. I couldn't believe it. I was literally like, oh my God, it's like Liz knew when she was doing this training. But he handled it like a boss, and he absolutely just gave the perfect answer. I felt like a proud mum, like, oh my God, yes, well done, you nailed it. And
Raised you well.
He came off the camera, and his face, he looked straight at me. He went, God, that training was worth it.
I bet. Pays off in the long run.
Yeah. So I think, just be aware that there might be some curveballs in there, but also you can say what you don't want to talk about, because what things are off limits. And I think that's important. Boundaries.
Yeah. Set the ground rules in a way.
Yeah. I mean, boundaries are really important as well, because if you know you're going to talk about a particular topic, so if you're going to talk about your business and you actually don't want to talk about your family, that is absolutely okay to say, so it's why we always have the shoe of silence. It's a case of like, never feel like you have to answer everything. So yes, be aware of that, and set those boundaries. And then lastly, stay cool. Keep it chill, keep it relaxed. Like we've said, it is a conversation, so don't stress yourself out over it. And if you do say something that you're not happy with, then at the end of the day, it's not live, so you can always ask as well for edits as well to be taken out. But generally, we've actually not had to do that many ever.
I think we've only edited like 1 or 2.
Yeah,
maybe. That's about it.
That's amazing, actually, really. For like 30 episodes. Are we at 30? We're 30.
Something like that, yeah. 30 something.
Look at us go. But yeah, so but it's important. Like you can definitely say like, oh, maybe I actually gave away too much, or, the business or brand may not want me to have said that. So, again, just relax and be aware, be self-aware. So those are my kind of tips for pitching. Do you think that's useful?
Very useful.
Thanks,
and if you did find it useful, make sure you like and follow.
Well, definitely. I mean, and also as well, we're always looking for wonderful guests. So, if you yourself are an entrepreneur, if you're a business owner, if you run a business, if you are a boss, then we would love to hear from you. You can email me at penny@diariesofbadassbosses.com and send me your really awesome pitches. Tell me that you've also listened to this episode as well, because then at least I can judge you on the tips that I've given you. But yeah, we'd love to definitely kind of hear from you as well and send us your great pitches. But I'd also love to hear from any other podcasters that have had some bad experiences, because I think, again, there's been some horrors that I've had. So I definitely feel like there's some comedy in this, so I'd love to hear from you as well. So do go to our socials or comment in the boxes below on any of our channels, and then next week we've got a lovely guest. He actually is an expert in retail design. So those of you that love shopping, which I absolutely love shopping, then tune in to listen to Daniel Asteria. And yeah, he'll be talking about his background in designing some of the most luxury shops like around London and the UK. So I'm really excited because I do also have a background in retail, having worked with Hammerson and stuff around the UK. So I'm really excited actually to see what's going on in the industry and what he's been up to. So tune in next Wednesday and I can't wait to see you. Bye.